What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of Pistons Daily, where you can find daily content covering all things Detroit Pistons all year long. I'm your host. My name is Kyle Garrison. I'm over on Twitter at Kyle Garrison2, where I talk all things Detroit sports. So come on over, say hello, give me comments, questions, concerns, episode ideas. I'd love to hear from you guys. Also, we are about 2 weeks into Pistons Daily and already creeping towards 1,000 subscribers. We're sitting at about 900 right now, so thank you guys all so much for the support and all the comments on the YouTube channel. I love hearing your thoughts on what's going on, and I really appreciate all the people who tune in every single day. All the interactions go a long way to support the channel, so once again, thank you. I appreciate the support, and let's jump right into today's video. So the first thing I want to talk about is the Malik Beasley investigation, and then I just want to dive into what that means going forward for the franchise, followed by just clearing things up about the Nickeil Alexander-Walker potential signing. I've been seeing people who think that that's at the expense of Jaden Ivey and that Nickeil Alexander-Walker would replace Jaden Ivey. I just want to clear things up on that and talk about how that's not the case, in my opinion. And then finally, I just want to talk about some cap space creation, how the Pistons are going to navigate free agency now with Malik Beasley's future uncertain. But first things first, let's talk about Malik. So if you haven't heard already, there's an investigation going on being conducted by the U.S. District Attorney Office that is investigating Malik Beasley potentially betting on NBA games in the 2023-2024 season when he was on the Milwaukee Bucks. So Shams came out earlier and said that the Pistons were in serious talks with Malik of getting a deal done for 3 years, $42 million that could have gotten done as early as tomorrow when the free agency window opens up tomorrow night. But allegedly, Beasley placed multiple player prop bets on NBA games during the 2023-2024 season. So it was not this past year, but it was 2 years ago. Malik Beasley has known for he's gotten into some trouble with the NBA in years past. Obviously, this is not set in stone. This is just an investigation. All of this is alleged right now, so it might not be true. I really hope it's not true for the sake of Malik Beasley, for the sake of his future on this team. But if it is true, it's very, very disappointing. It's just not something that you want to happen to one of your franchise pieces, somebody that was going to come back in next year and really provide a spark off the bench. He did it this year. He really was loving Detroit. He got very comfortable with the fan base. He was interacting with people, and everybody really just bought into the Malik Beasley era of Detroit basketball. I think that if he would have been allowed to walk and go sign with somebody else this offseason, Pistons fans would have been furious. But right now, it looks like he might not be on the team next year. There's a very real chance he's not, and that really shakes things up for the entire franchise. Obviously, like I said, they already had a plan in place to re-sign him for 3 years, $42 million, and be that spark plug off the bench. Just be a shooting threat to play anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes a night, whatever you need him for. And now that's not going to be really the case. They don't really have that luxury anymore of having a very, very solid sixth man, and you might have to go in another direction this offseason if the investigation doesn't get wrapped up before the start of the season. So I really hope it's not a Jonte Porter situation, because the league takes that very, very seriously, and Malik's career could be essentially over. And he's only 28 years old. He's got a ton of good basketball left in him. The way he plays, too, he could play for a long, long time. And in one day, just like that, it could be all over. So, we're hoping for the best for Malik Beasley. If he did do what he allegedly did, then he should face repercussions. I think if you're an objective just fan of sports and fan of the game, you have to respect the integrity of the game. Even though we all love what Malik Beasley brought to the table last year, he should be punished accordingly if he did break those rules. But I'll continue to update throughout the next couple weeks, but there's definitely going to be a pivot in the offseason strategy with this news coming out. And again, his future for this franchise is now very, very questionable. But let's talk about what that just means going forward for the Pistons. I know I talked about Nickeil Alexander-Walker in yesterday's video, and that is now even more of a real possibility, considering if Malik were to come back, it won't be until the investigation concludes, which could take months. So the mid-level exception that the Pistons were prepared to offer Malik Beasley starting tomorrow is now available for another player. So a guy like Nickeil Alexander-Walker now becomes very, very enticing. And you don't have to do a sign and trade now because that money becomes available. And you can offer him a similar deal that you were going to offer Malik Beasley. Do you value Nickeil Alexander-Walker enough to shell out the 14.1 full mid-level exception. Who knows? Julius Randle did just re-sign with the Timberwolves. So what I've been reading, Nickeil Alexander-Walker is fully available. I think the Pistons and the Atlanta Hawks, from what I've been reading, are the two most interested teams. And I understand people look at Nickeil Alexander-Walker's numbers last year, and it's nothing insane. It's nothing to write home about, but he brings a very high upside defensively. He's only 26 years old, so he is younger than Malik Beasley. And I just think he could really help this team overall in the long run. And now more than ever, you absolutely need to explore options, because Tim Hardaway Jr. being your really only floor spacing guard that can be a knockdown shooter is just not going to cut it. You need more options than just Tim Hardaway Jr. Last year, we loved what Malik Beasley brought to the table because we were pining for Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey to have some more floor spacing around them as very solid facilitating guards. And they got it. They got it last year. They had some very good shooters around them. I think you expected a little bit more from Tobias from the three-point line, maybe Simone Fontecchio, but Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. really carried the load when it came to beyond the arc. And right now, it's looking like Malik Beasley might not be an option next year. So I do expect Tim Hardaway Jr. to now be back in Detroit. I think that he will be a priority now. Just with Malik Beasley leaving, now you kind of need another guard that you rely on to space the floor, who's comfortable in the system, who knows the JB Bickerstaff system, has been here for a year now. And I think he's a better option than a lot of guys that are available in free agency. So I do think that Tim Hardaway Jr. will be back. And I still am unsure about Dennis Schroeder. I don't think this really changes much. I don't know necessarily if the Pistons see him as a part of their future. Again, the Kings and other teams have shown a ton of interest, the Kings specifically. So we'll see what it looks like. I think tomorrow we'll have a better idea if Dennis Schroeder were to sign with the Kings, what the Pistons might do. I think if Dennis Schroeder does leave, Nickeil Alexander-Walker becomes an even hotter commodity for the Pistons, and that's somebody that you might have no choice but to go out and at least offer give an offer sheet to. So we'll see how that plays out. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think Tim Hardaway Jr. and Dennis become guys you have to bring back now? Definitely one of them, depending on what you can get in free agency. But yeah, just let me know your guys' thoughts. Do you think Nickeil Alexander-Walker is still a valid option, or would you like to see a different target? Let me know in the comments or over on Twitter. But moving on, I just wanted to talk about the fact that I've seen some people who are very, very apprehensive about bringing in Nickeil Alexander-Walker because they think he might be the replacement for Jaden Ivey. And let's just get one thing first. That is not the case. That is just no way there's truth to that whatsoever. I understand that Pistons fans aren't used to having guard depth, but it's okay to have a surplus of options. You're allowed to have more than two good guards on your roster. You really are. So I really don't know where this stemmed from because, Ivy is maybe because he's eligible extension next year. And if you bring Nickeil Alexander-Walker in on a cheaper deal, maybe you don't have to extend Jaden Ivey. But again, like we talked about with Jalen Duren, they're going to offer Jaden Ivey an offer sheet. They're going to bring up extension talks with him and his agent 100%. Unless Jaden Ivey is sitting there where he's asking for $45 million a year, I just don't think there's any way where Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a replacement. And if Jaden Ivey played this entire year, this conversation would be dead. This conversation would not be we would not be having this conversation. So it does sound like the Pistons are going to pursue Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but as a rotational piece that can offer you 3-and-D upside, not as a guy who's going to be your number 1-2 guard and play 34 to 38 minutes a night. There's just no way. And, I'm saying this, it's all speculation, so I don't want you guys to think that I'm just kind of coming at the fans for thinking this. But, obviously I'm not in the front office, so I don't know how they value the future of J.I., but I can almost guarantee you that targeting Nickeil Alexander-Walker is not at the expense of Ivy whatsoever, but he's rather just supposed to be a piece that can come in and help the depth of the backcourt. And if Jaden Ivey or Cade Cunningham are getting in foul trouble, you have the option to play Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who is an excellent defender and can shoot the rock very, very high at a very, very high clip. He showed it last year, the last couple of years really in Minnesota, that he's a very, very capable shooter. And I just think that it's kind of being blown out of proportion that Jaden Ivey, his future is in question because the Pistons are pursuing Nickeil Alexander-Walker. No, I think it's honestly a good sign for Jaden Ivey because now he's going to have somebody who's a little bit better of a defender behind him, and there's not going to be times where you're relying on Jaden Ivey to come in and guard. Just an example, a guy like Jalen Brunson, when you have minutes on the floor where Ausar's not there, if you can have another perimeter defender like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, that's going to really help this team, and I think it's going to help the development of everybody, not just one singular player. So let me know in the comments what the reasoning behind Na being Ivey's replacement would be, because I'm genuinely curious. I want to hear what people's thought process is and what the justification behind that is. And it is very interesting to me because I think Jaden Ivey is undervalued by some people, overvalued by others. And we just have to see with the future what next year looks like for him. But I think that having Nickeil Alexander-Walker would be very nice for Jaden Ivey rather than kind of a roadblock in his development. And then moving on, final topic before we wrap things up. Just now that the Pistons have some cap space availability, we kind of got to talk about what the game plan is now. So even if Malik is cleared of any violations and doesn't face a ban or a suspension, the contract will most likely be 1 year and won't be signed until probably the investigation is over or closer to the season starting. And because of that, the Pistons now have the full mid-level exception open, like I mentioned before. So there is some options you can go, and we've talked about trading Simone Fontecchio. I think that's a great option to clear up $8 million in cap space. You add that to the $14 million for the mid-level exception. Right there, you're looking at $11 million in cap space, which could be very valuable either this season, next offseason, just depending on what you look like or what you want to do in free agency, what kind of splashes you want to make. But trading Simone, very, very smart idea, would clear up $8 million in cap space. We've talked about him before. I just don't think there's a place for him on this team. It doesn't fit the timeline. He played poorly last year. So I believe they will trade Simone Fontecchio to open up some more money. And then I also think that one of Tim Hardaway Jr. or Dennis Schroeder will still be gone. That becomes much more up in the air and becomes much more of a conversation now with Malik Beasley's investigation. And like I mentioned before, Tim Hardaway Jr. is a guy that you might not be able to afford to lose this offseason. Dennis Schroeder, is still going to be a guy that you have to figure out what you want to do. If you want to let him walk, he's probably going to take a big deal with Sacramento if you do that. If not, you got to negotiate, and he can become your backup point guard. And obviously next year, he'd have to play some two-guard minutes if Malik Beasley is not part of the rotation. So one of those two or both of them, I think, will be back next year. And it just will have to be a matter of what the corresponding moves are. I think that a lot of people thought Tim Hardaway Jr. and Dennis would be back. As the weeks have kind of gone on in the offseason, it seems like Dennis Schroeder might be a less of a guarantee to come back and more of a 50-50. So is Nas somebody you feel comfortable giving the mid-level exception to? Is there other pieces that you want to go after? A couple names I've heard of is Caris LeVert to fill some guard depth. I don't love the Caris LeVert fit. He's getting on the older side. He doesn't shoot the ball very well. He's more of a guy that needs the ball in his hand to be successful, and I'd rather have Jaden Ivey just have the ball in the non-Cade minutes. So I don't love the Caris LeVert fit, but a guy like Sam Hauser could be an option if you want to go trade for somebody cheap. You could inquire about him. He's a knockdown three-point shooter. Kind of really does what Malik does. Doesn't play a ton of defense, but is a very, very solid shooter. Will shoot 40% beyond the arc. Probably not as high of a volume as Malik Beasley, but can still be a good bench option. But let me know in the comments what you would like the Pistons to do now that Malik Beasley's future is up in the air, and just your overall reaction to the Beasley news. I was kind of at a loss for words for a little bit. I had to do some research before I fully believed it, but it turned out to be true. So let me know your guys' thoughts, your reactions, and just what you would like to see the Pistons do overall in regards to the Malik Beasley news. But that's all I've got for you guys today. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, comment, turn on post notifications, and follow me on Twitter at Kyle Garrison2 for more content covering all things Detroit sports. And let me know in the comments or over on Twitter what you'd like to see out of free agency and how the Pistons staff should handle the Malik Beasley investigation. Also, just give me your thoughts on Nickeil Alexander-Walker becoming a real possibility going forward, and if you think he can help push this team into contention. And then give me your thoughts on Jaden Ivey as well. If Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Jaden Ivey can work well together, I believe they can, but let me hear your thoughts in the comment section below or over on Twitter. And with that being said, that is going to do it here for episode 12 of Pistons Daily, and I will catch you all next time.